Social Media News and Its Credibility, as viewed by college students, Group 14, Jada Candle, Kylie Day, Allison Gowan, Robert Bucher. Introduction. Online News Credibility, 2002. Abdullah Garrison, Solon Driscoll, and Casey did research on multiple news sources using a 12-point Likert credibility scale and phoning over 560 research participants. The purpose of the study was to investigate the similarities and differences of users' perception of the credibility of traditional news media delivery systems. Abdullah Garrison, Solon Driscoll, Casey, 2002. We decided to conduct research based on the same Likert scale and narrow the research to how college students view the Washington News Facebook fan page and their normal news website and their credibility. Furthermore, generally, the concept of credibility has been researched in two principal domains, source and medium, Kiosas, 2001. In our research, we're only going to focus on the source. The medium is static as it pertains to the same news source, just a different delivery. We also learned from Cassidy's research on online news credibility that journalists in the new millennium are no longer deciding what information the public should know, but instead are helping audience make sense of it. Cassidy, 2007. Credibility. Generally, the concept of credibility has been researched in two principal domains, source and medium. Source credibility, probed in interpersonal, organizational, and mass media context, has involved examining how the different communicator characteristics can influence the processing of messages, e.g., Eddington, 71, Markham, 68, Mulek and Sherman, 75, O'Keefe, 1990. A communicator in these studies has been chiefly defined as an individual, group, or organization. Within this research stream, the compact of content and message attributes on source credibility has also been examined, e.g. Chartsbart, Lashbrook, Snavely and Sutherland, 1977, Lukac and McCroskey, 1978. Medium credibility. Research, on the other hand, has focused more on the channel through which content is delivered rather than the sender or senders of that content, e.g. Abel and Wirth, 1977, Gantz, 1981, Newhagen, 1997. In selecting literature for this investigation, we zeroed in on these two prominent empirical perspectives to gain a comprehensive overview of the credibility concept. It is important to note that some empirical work has indicated that it is meaningful to distinguish between source credibility and medium credibility, e.g. Newhagen and Nass, 1989, although the two forms obviously overlap. For example, Thorson and Moore in 1996 asserted that credibility is an issue or both source presenters in a message as well as for the channel or medium carrying the message. Furthermore, Wesley and Severin in 1964 articulated more than 30 years ago that a small amount of attention has been dedicated to channel credibility, and this continues to be the case. As a result, it appears sage to draw on literature from both research approaches to avoid theoretical and empirical confusion. Hypothesis. The Facebook Washington Post News Fans page will be rated as more credible by college students than will the Washington Post website.
This section will talk about our actual method and how we conducted our survey. It will also discuss the different participants. It will provide two examples of the images that our participants could have experienced. It will talk a little bit about our procedure, and it will go on throughout the rest of the presentation. This section talks a little bit about our participants. We found our participants using the volunteer sample approach. This was completed by sharing the link to each researcher's Facebook profile page and through an email sent out to our whole COM 2010 class. 189 people attempted the survey, while 123 actually completed it. Our mean age was 23.18, which 67.5% were female and 32.5% were male. The most common level of schooling was 64.2% reporting some level of college that had been attempted or completed, and that most of the participants' main news source was through social media. The main social media that was reported being used at 98.4% was a Facebook page, which makes sense considering that's how we recruited most of our participants. And the average use of social media, with a whopping 69.1% of responses, came in at several times a day. Next, we will show you the materials that we used to complete our survey. The first example that we have is the Facebook post that we use. As you can see, it is from the Washington Post official Facebook fan page, and it is an article on why the Braves are leaving Atlanta in one map. It has the author, it has the date and time it was published, It appears to be written correctly. So this was one option that the survey would give our participants. The other option that our survey participants would get would be the actual online news source. So it comes directly from the Washington Post website. It's the exact same article. Again, why the Braves are leaving Atlanta on one map. It talks about the exact same thing. Everything is the exact same word for word. We wanted to make sure that when we tested the two different variables that we made sure that at least our article remained the same. And remember, our hypothesis that we are testing is rather the Facebook Washington Post news fan page would be rated as more credible by college students than will the Washington Post website page. So after we looked over our data and saw how many people would get the Facebook page and how many would get the Washington Post page, we were able to come up with more of our results.
In our procedure, participants were directed to a Qualtrics survey, where they were randomly assigned to read either a Washington Post Facebook fan page with a news article on it, or a news article that was on the Washington Post news website. The articles the participants were asked to read were identical, so only the sources were different. For our measures, participants were asked to assess credibility to the article based on a 5-point Likert scale, ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree. Participants filled out the scale based on the following queries: trustworthy, believable, accurate, reported the whole story, balanced, fair, dishonest, timely, current, up-to-date, biased, and objective. Examples of these are: the article you read was trustworthy. Do you strongly agree, neither agree or disagree, and strongly disagree? They would then highlight their answer on their survey. Our reliability shows that Cronbach's alpha was a 0.83, which was good. In order to test our hypothesis that the Facebook Washington Post news fan page will be rated as more credible by college students than will the Washington Post website, we conducted an independent t-test. Results indicated that participants saw the Washington Post Facebook fan page as a less credible source than the Washington Post website. Therefore, the hypothesis was not supported.
This then leads into our discussion.
Summary of results. Research participants found that the Washington Post website was more credible source of news than the Facebook fan page. It was only slightly more credible, however, but it still disregarded our hypothesis, finding it to be not supported. We thought the opposite would be true since social media is so popular. Implications of these results. 58% of the respondents to the survey said that they received their news from social media outlets such as Facebook. Overall, this channel of news was not deemed credible. News organizations can now focus more of their news towards their websites and not invest in resources into social media. We found that even the fan pages on Facebook and such took you directly to the website, which would be doing the exact same thing as going to the website yourself. Limitations. The survey used Facebook Friends to gather data, and all but 2 of the people who took the survey said that they had Facebook profiles. This was a limited scope of people and didn't allow for much breadth. The research participants were limited to college students and its small group of our population. Most of them were personal friends of ours who only responded because they had taken a similar class and were asking such, like we did when we sent out the email. Possible future research. Expand the scope of the research participants to expand it to all ages and not just college students, and to advocate the survey to all and those who don't use social media. The problem with our study is that we used Facebook, which is social media, so all of the participants were skewed because of their social media use, whereas using paper surveys or phone surveys, they would reach a population who may not have social media, so they would have a different opinion. It would also reach a wider variety of ages, such as people from older generations as well as younger generations.